the feedback you always give us. We give you, because to tell you the truth, I'm not telling about any other teachers, but you are the only one who returns immediately. And that is important, because this way we know what we have to do different.
Do you guys all understand how the comments work? Are you seeing the comments on the side? Okay. I just wanted to be sure, because sometimes people don't understand how that function works in Microsoft Word. So I just wanted to be sure you were all seeing the ones along the side. Yes? Oh.
Your comments.
Yeah, they should be off to the side, right?
Yes.
You're all seeing that. Okay.
I haven't seen this part.
There's a little balloon like
There should now it may be that I didn't have any specific comments, but pretty much I almost always give at least one. But they should be off to the side. You might have to turn it on. So maybe see someone that it did work for to be sure that you've got that function turned on.
You have to put the thing on the number or the letter so you can see the
you have to just turn it on. But I also turn on the track changes so that if you had grammar errors, I fix those too, and it shows you where I fixed them. Okay. But I find if I give it to you 2 weeks from now, you forgot what you did. So timeliness is also of the essence. Getting things back to students in a reasonable time. And when you have 40 students, that can be hard. So something like this that speeds it up, right? It takes time in the beginning to make it. But then you get to use them over and over again, and it becomes a lot simpler. I started doing this, and I saved myself so much time, I can't even begin to tell you. It just makes things a lot easier. And there's also less arguing. If you have students who tend to argue about grades, it's pretty clear here why they've gotten what they did.
And I like my listening speaking teacher. She built
Yes.
rubric with us.
So you guys built it together.
Because we have a test, oral test.
Okay.
And
So you decided what was important together. So that's another nice, to increase kind of engagement, you could build the rubric with your students. What do they think is important to demonstrate knowledge of that topic? Good. I like that too. Okay? Questions about this?
Is it different, what I said, is it different from to give an own grade, for the student to give an own grade?
The student is not grading themselves. They're deciding what they're going to be graded on. Okay? So they're saying, in order to demonstrate that I understand this, here's what I think I should have to do. Right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's different than saying give yourself a grade. Which, you know how that goes. Usually. Okay. All right. Any questions about rubrics? I'll try to put something up. Hopefully there's a site that helps you make them. I'll see what I can find. Okay. Grading swap. Have them grade each other. Do you guys do this? Yeah, exchange papers, yeah, okay? Like, time saver number 1, all right? They're pretty good about it. They're usually pretty, honest about grading each other correctly and accurately, and then it's all you have to do is just sort of record the scores. Obviously, that's only possible for the, like, fill-in-the-blank matching type of stuff. It's not for projects, but it's something. It's better than nothing.
Especially for compositions. They are very... They have a different eye when they look.
So peer editing is different than peer grading. Okay? Peer grading is like there's a correct answer and an incorrect answer. Okay? And you're just checking yes or no. Peer editing is if you have a piece of writing and you exchange it with someone and you identify errors or other things that the person can improve. Okay? They're different skills. I find if you do peer editing, the teacher still has to check because sometimes they correct things that are correct already. But so that may or may not reduce your workload, but it's still a great exercise for them to do that. Yeah.
I had an experience because I worked for 10 years in a technical school in Brazil, and at that time I worked with text production in Portuguese. And then I wrote some criteria
Mhm.
and then I changed the text, but the students are supposed to observe the criteria. The same they will be evaluated, for example, during the ENEM.
Okay.
Then they have to reflect about the kind of correction they will.
Yeah, so reflecting on corrections is also very helpful to have them look at what they've done and kind of think about it. Yeah. Good. Okay, so this is pretty straightforward. Most people already do this, but I thought, just in case you forgot. Group assessment is another fun way to do things. So if you group them however you choose, for this kind of thing, I would recommend all of the same level being together, because otherwise the strong student is going to take over. Give them one quiz paper for the group of 5, and they have to agree on the answers with 75 to 80%. So if you have a group of 4, 3 of them must agree before they can write the answer down. If you have a group of 5, 4 of them must agree before they can write the answer down. And if they have like half of them believe one thing is correct and the other half believe something else is correct, they have to talk about it until they get a majority that agrees. Okay. So that's also kind of like higher order thinking, because they've got to debate the issue to see who's going to convince the other one to get it right, or to write the answer down. Okay. If you want to avoid one group listening to the other group, you could have like different assessments. But at this point, if you put them in groups of 4 or 5, instead of having 40 papers to collect, you have 10 or 8. That's a lot easier. Okay. Listening and speaking. So, a lot of you wrote down that you had trouble with this in large groups. But I kind of just wanted to open a discussion about like what those problems were or are, and if you have any thoughts about that. Louise, I think you wrote that, didn't you?
Yeah.
So what's the problem with listening and speaking in large groups for you?
Well, when we have a class, for example, with 40 students, how can we do an individual speaking? All the other 39 students will be talking about everything.
At this point, what percentage of your students have smartphones? Or phones, period? Almost all. Okay. If not all, maybe you get a couple recorders. But for that, I would say the easiest solution is just every so often, don't do it all the time because this does take a lot of time, have them record something and send it to you. Because then you're not taking class time to listen to one individual student. But you do get to hear every single one of them, because you know as well as I do there are probably at least 5 that never say anything in class. So it's a good chance to hear those 5 that you don't hear from very often. And you can kind of take your time, like listen to it more than once, really focus on the things they need to work on, right? So for that type of assessment, I think getting students to send in recordings is the best.
I don't know if I'm right, but I think reading aloud is another way of assessing, not a formal one, but it's an informal way of assessing them.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you could have, if they're all following along, technically they're not doing anything, but hopefully they'll still be engaged in trying to understand the story. That you're assessing something different there. It's really more like, are they able to pronounce English words than, because you're not asking them to construct sentences from scratch. So
Natural speech.
not natural speech, it's scripted, right? So you might try to balance out your assessments with some impromptu, unscripted speech, with some things that they might be reading from a book or something like that. Yeah.
I had another experience at a technical school, and then I called the students. But then we.
Ooh, phone calls! I like
Yeah.
this. Okay.
But it was in class. Yeah, we reserve a separate area, and we have a telephone there, and then the teacher called to this.
Interesting.
One by one.
That's nice because that also assesses listening.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I like that a lot. So give them a call on the phone, have a conversation, see what happens. They would probably be completely freaked out by their teacher. All right, good. Any other ideas for how you guys manage it? Okay, well, I've got a couple more. So besides the recording, you could have, besides the recording and then sending it to you, which is very time consuming, but you don't have to do it often, and at least it gives you, and also the nice thing, if you keep them, you can also see progress over time. So if you compare the recording they did at the beginning of the year with the recording they do at the end of the year, hopefully you can see some improvement. You could also have them do group presentations where everybody has to do an equal amount of time. So if there are 5 people and the presentation is 5 minutes, they have to organize it so that each person speaks 1 minute. That would be a way to get everybody doing it. And if you're grading with the rubric, you can be grading while they're talking. You don't have to do it later, right? So just quick. In order to keep the other 35 engaged, you can give them like a sheet to take notes, either on the content or on how they're doing with the presentation. Are they using English? Are they making eye contact? Do they have good visuals? Stuff like that. You could take them to the computer lab and have them do a listening quiz based on the video, and then when they're done, just have them raise their hand and you write down the score. Okay. If they're all taking ones with the same number of points, that's pretty easy. You could even, they could be doing different ones depending on how concerned you are about, them looking at what the other person is doing. Okay. And then the other one I thought of was running dictation, which we're going to look at really quickly. If I can find my, there. So here's what's going to happen. I would like each group, and by group I mean table, to choose one person to be the runner. You do not actually have to run. Okay? You're just called the runner. Pick a runner. This person should have good memorization skills and good speaking skills.
Runner. Tell me going to be the runner.
Tell me the runner. Okay.
You have a very good
Who's your runner?
memorization
Denise is your runner. Who's your runner? Who's your runner?
You are the one that was speaking.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. Runners, are you ready? Stand up. Runner. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. There should also be 1 or 2 or 3 people with a piece of paper and a pencil ready at the table. Okay? The runner is going to go find one of these pieces of paper. They are going to try to remember the first sentence. And then they are going to come back to the table and tell it to the people sitting at the table who will write it down. Okay? I will give you 2 minutes to get as much of this text onto your papers as possible. I'm going to do this, okay, just so you can take a shortcut. So there's a paper here, there's a paper here, there's a paper here.
Okay.
Okay? Here, it's in the tray.
With the
Okay?
paper. After running and getting the paper.
No. They don't get the paper. They look at the paper, try to remember, come back and tell you, and you write it down. Okay? Everybody got it?
Okay.
Ready? Go! 1 minute left.
Finished.
Okay, have a seat. 20 seconds left. All right, time's up. Stop. Sit down. No. You cannot take what you just wrote. No. Okay, have a seat. Now, those of you that were writing, try to come to an agreement on what you think it should say. Okay, make sure you have the same thing written down. Everybody agrees on one version. So, if more than one person was writing, check against each other. Okay.
Because I have to report or show you?
Neither. I'll tell you.
Because it's all takes.
Oh, that's okay.
Is that a problem? Report.
All right, time's up. If you're not done, I don't care. Sorry. I mean, I do care, but I don't. So what would happen next is that you would switch papers with another group to check accuracy. But you do not have to do that because I'm pretty sure you were like scribbling. So you may keep your own paper, but I am expecting that you are going to be honest. All right? You will give yourself a point for each word that you wrote correctly. Okay? Okay? So I will read it very slowly. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay, so check yourselves. 1 point for each word you get correct. If you don't know what I'm saying, I will repeat it. Okay?
One point for correct word.
For each correct word.
Word
Yep. Word.
Should we do that or not? Just for us to know how to do this. Because some people say, no, we don't need to exchange. It's for us to exchange.
No, you don't have to exchange now. I will trust you to grade yourself, okay? Now, if it were your students, make them change papers with another group, okay? Ready? Running. Dictation is for listening and speaking, period. One person is the runner, period. That person reads the sentences and reports them to the group. Period. The group must write down the sentences. Period. The group can also ask questions. period. When the paragraph is finished, the teacher can collect the original and the group version and compare them. Period. This checks the listening and speaking skills of a whole group. Count how many points you have. 52. 52.
One, two, three, four, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
52? 45.
One person to ask 49. Just one person.
Okay. 49, 45, 52. 50, 52, 51, 63. I believe we have a winning group up here. Are you guys still counting? No. 54. Okay. 63, I believe, was our winning. They got all the way through it. Did anybody else get all the way to the end?
No.
Okay, they got all the way to the end. So congratulations, we'll give them a. But as you can see, you're kind of assessing the speaking skills of one person, right? The person who's reporting it back to the group, and the listening skills of everybody else. Okay. So you can kind of use this as a combination listening and speaking assessment, and it's kind of fun. Like, it seems like it wouldn't necessarily be, but it's like competition and entertainment. And then of course you would take them to check to be sure that they graded them correctly. Okay. Questions about how this works?
Very nice.
Okay. Okay, and then the last thing is drama. So a couple people had questions about drama and how it works with a big group. And others of you had questions about like building in role plays and grading and things like that. Okay. So basically, the concern was, what do I do when I have a play that's only for like 6 students? What are the other 30 students doing? Okay. Does anybody use drama or plays in their classroom?
Yes, I do. A lot.
So what do you do? What do you do with the other 30 students?
I try to involve everybody.
How?
Some of them are the actors.
Mm-hmm.
Some are trying to put some visual effects and some music, and some of them are making the scenery with plastic or recyclable things, and some of them are the writers, and 2 of them are the directors.
Okay. Okay. So you have
the
them
whole class is involved.
multiple roles. Okay. Any other ideas for how you use it?
You do the same.
Mm-hmm.
They love it.
Sometimes, but especially with younger students, okay, sometimes they prepare kind of a presentation, and I ask the other students to take notes.
Mm-hmm.
For example, because in general I ask them to use some expressions or some vocabulary, and then after they have a sheet of paper, and then they put the student's name and what words he understood, for example, from what was being performed.
Okay. All right, so simple note taking
Yeah.
can keep them involved. Good. Anybody else do this and have any other? Yeah.
But the final work was a video. We make a video. And they work with the handle of the opera. And it was like in Thelma, we divide the students who will be the actors, who will take care of the scenery, and we will make the film.
So there was only one film for the whole class?
Yes.
Okay, so mostly what I'm hearing is that there's like one production and everybody's trying to do some different elements of it. My suggestion is that you actually have like multiple productions and each group makes their own. Because when you tend to have, I don't, it's just my experience that when I have like the set people, well, they're doing something when they're designing the set, but then when it comes time to watch, they're kind of done. So, to have everybody always involved, there are a couple different options. They could all perform the same story, but they have to write their own script, and they could give it a twist. And then the listening component for the people who are not performing could be identifying what's different about the play that they see from the ones that the other people are doing. So having like everybody tell the Cinderella story, but maybe in one Cinderella is blind, or in the other one the prince is really ugly instead of being handsome. And that's what they have to identify when they're listening. Okay. Another option would be to tell one story and break it into parts. Okay, and each group is responsible for a scene. Okay, so you would have one group perform the beginning, one group the middle, one group the end, etc. Okay, video is useful also because you have the option of them each doing their own and making smaller groups. It's just the bigger the groups are, the bigger the tendency for people to not be doing something for some reason. Yeah.
I have a good experience with videos. You know the movie Be Kind Rewind? You know Be Kind Rewind? You know? It's about a shop that rents VCRs, videos, and someone kind of delete or erase all the tapes. And they have to film, they have to make a film of all the big movies, Hollywood movies. Driving Miss Daisy,
it's really funny.
King Kong.
It's very funny.
Very, very funny.
Yeah.
And those movies from Jack Chan.
Yeah.
Also.
Is this Jack Black movie?
Yes.
Yes,
It is. Yeah.
So I
one question. Something like this.
Rebobine, por favor. Yes.
Jack Black. I remember now.
So after the students watch the movie, I asked them to make groups and make a scene, a video with subtitles, and make a scene of the film that they like the most.
Okay, so they each get to choose a movie they like and recreate the movie.
Yeah,
Okay.
with special effects like
Nice.
Be Kind Rewind.
Yeah, that's great.
It was so funny because they also put the introduction of a song like 20th Century and put Tonio's production.
They get into it. They really do.
They do.
But even just having them perform and then recording them while they're performing.
They try to say the same sentences as they see in the scene. They performed Rock Balboa,
Rocky.
Yeah. They performed The Magician of the Oz. Is it correct? Wizard. Yes.
Wizard of Oz.
The
Okay.
Wizard of Oz.
So that would be interesting. I mean, as an activity as a whole, I think that sounds pretty cool to watch that movie and then try to recreate famous movie scenes is very entertaining.
Just the scenes, the small
Yeah,
parts.
small parts, the most famous parts.
I
Yeah.
have done the same,
Uh-huh.
and at the end of the year, we invited the family
for a cinema show.
Oh,
in
very
the
nice.
evening. We served
Uh-huh.
popcorn,
Okay.
and we showed the parents and family.
It's a lot of fun, and when you do video, like they have sort of a memory, but also it's a nice way to put them in those groups, and also you have like something where you can watch, and like I find that when I'm watching videos to assess students, I'll watch it the number of times that for however many students are in it, and they all have to speak, even if they're doing special effects. They should have to. I mean, if it's a speaking activity, they should all have to speak. I'll just focus on one person each time I watch it, and then I can grade them, And they're not long, so it doesn't take you that much time, but they're super fun. Yeah. Any other people who use drama? It also can be good for if you talk about like historical events or anything like that. You can turn it into a dramatization instead of just reading about it. So one of the Brazilian teachers who was here over the summer went home and started doing like the civil rights movement through drama. Like she had them act out Rosa Parks on the bus and Martin Luther King's I Have Dreams speech and all of that stuff. So there's lots of different, it doesn't just have to be like movies and books. It can be all kinds of different things.
Last year, what I have done with my students was a kind of advertisements. So
Commercials are great.
Yeah, that they recorded. It was very nice.
Yeah.
I love it.
They're funny. You can have them make up their own products and focus on like the intonation that's used in commercials, adjectives to describe the product. Yeah. Yeah, Hannah?
And this year, the last year, I made a kind of a video festival. They arranged in groups to do this kind of video clips, for example. But they had to present. One that they liked very much was I Want You to Break Free from Queen.
Mm-hmm.
They correctly put the clothes and
wow,
they didn't
cool.
sing.
Uh-huh.
But they had to
Lip sync.
perform. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Lip sync was a lot, 5 or 6 a group. But this one was the favorite because the boys were exactly the same. They studied the video clip.
Wow.
With the clothes.
Huh. That sounds fun.
The mustache was very nice.
It's actually very
Friendly.
Yeah, the mustache. Very nice.
Like this.
Sandra?
Something that I've been doing the last years for seniors in high school. They choose some books. Okay, they are supposed to read. For example, by Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, Charles Dickens, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and then some others. They should. And then after that, we discuss some points. But in general, we have 4 or 5 groups in the class. And then after that, they are supposed to write the script and perform in the theater.
Yeah.
With the costumes, soundtrack, they organize everything. And it is really, really rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, but I asked them to mix Portuguese and English.
Okay. And one of the other things about drama is that it, for some reason that I can't even fully understand, but there's a lot of research that goes along with why it's useful. Did you have a drama workshop with Dr. Stevens?
No, not yet.
Not yet. It's coming though? Okay. He insanely loves drama, and so do I. It's what I teach almost all the time when I'm not teaching you guys. It involves so many different aspects of using the language that it's really hard to even determine how many things they're focusing on. But it also is a way for shy students to kind of step out of themselves and be someone else, because you're no longer you're this character. So there's a lot of like the inhibitions kind of get removed, because if you're no longer yourself, you're somebody else. So they're less worried about making mistakes in a sense, because somehow the judgment is off of them and onto the character. And there's a lot of research about like also how people sort of become a different person in their second language. So this is sort of another way to kind of help. I'm sure maybe you're a different person in English than you are in Portuguese. Yeah.
The most, I don't know how to pronounce it, the most shy, the shyest
The shyest ones, yeah.
The shyest ones had a big part.
Yeah, and you'll find that unexpectedly the ones who are usually very shy will suddenly be incredibly outgoing, because they have this thing to hide behind that is not them. So anyhow, if you have more questions about drama, you will have a presentation next week from Dr. Stevens, I think. Next week, Thursday.
Check.
Okay. And you'll enjoy that. He's very dynamic. You already had him for a couple presentations, but drama is like his favorite thing in the whole world. So if you liked the other one, you're going to love this one. Homework, quickly. Monday, you have to do your second presentation about your observations, okay? So remember, it's not just the questions that you had on that paper, but I also want you to report specific like tasks and procedures you saw the teachers using that you found effective, okay? Again, be ready to speak for about 5 minutes. We're going to have more or less the same process that we did last time, okay? Starting next week, because UD classes are back in session, our room is going to start changing. Okay, so please look on your schedule. Don't just automatically come here. A bunch of the time we're in that room right there, 319, but there's like one day we're at Colburn Lab, which is a completely different building, and some other stuff. So just from now on, check your schedule to be sure of where you're going, okay? Questions about the homework? Okay, the presentation is on the website, so if I know there was a lot of text on some of them. If you want to look at it again or whatever, it's already up there. Okay? Any last questions?
It's in pairs, yeah?
What? No. The presentation? No, it's like the first one. When you talked about the observations you did?
Yes.
It was not in pairs.
No, the observation class, yes.
No, you observed in pairs, but the presentation is on your own. Yeah. I mean, you can talk with the person you observed with if you want to bounce ideas off them, but...
The last week.
Will it what?
The one we did last week.
Was it? I think it was 2 weeks ago now.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Yes, 2 weeks
same,
ago.
same. But you're supposed to be focusing on different questions this time on that sheet, okay? So think about that, all right? Any other questions?
Do we have to do submission?
No. Just be ready to talk. Prepare your notes, be ready to talk, okay? Enjoy your trip to DC.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna not snow. Yay! So people get to go. They kind of, there's now much less of a chance of snow, and if it does happen, it will be Sunday, not Saturday. So yay!
It's also our excursion.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be terrible if you did that.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I was in a hospital they have our last observation class. So
Okay.
what can I do?
But wait, the last class or the last observation?
The last observation.
Well, but you should have seen other ones besides just...
Yeah, because we are urban engineers. I'm working with cosmetics.
Right, but I mean, you observed more than one class since the last time.
Yeah.
So just don't
just
worry about
one.
just one. So just focus on the one you saw then. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So just think about the one that you did see. Because you still to your group, just like the last time with the group. Yeah.
I don't have
Because the last sentence of the homework, what was the last?
Oh, no, the bottom line is just be sure to check the
Começa assim, ó. Just this.